Okay. Hello, everybody. Tahara Ezrahti here from Applied Intuition, and I'm a trained clairvoyant, and also I teach clairvoyant development classes. And today I'm here once again with Corinne Cevaer-Corey, and she's a astrologer. And we've done two other interviews that you might want to look up. One was in January, and we were looking at the astrology for all of 2023, and actually a little bit beyond that. And then we did one in March around the spring equinox, and we were talking about the next quarter. But she suggested the other day that to jump on and do a quick interview about the eclipse season that we're in, that also includes a Mercury retrograde and a few other things that she thinks is significant. So, Corinne, I'm going to turn it over to you. First of all, tell us exactly when these eclipses are and what kind of astrological weather you think they're creating.
Right. So eclipses, hello, first of all. Eclipses happen every 6 months. So it's not just the one in a lifetime situation. It's just every 6 months we have usually a pair of eclipses. Occasionally we have 3 eclipses back to back. And so 2 eclipses occur. We have a full moon eclipse, a new moon eclipse, or a new moon eclipse and a full moon eclipse. They are 2 weeks apart, but usually the eclipse period in general runs the 6 weeks. 2 weeks prior, before the first eclipse. The 2 weeks in between are the most intense because we have the orb of both eclipses, and then the energy of intense energy is felt into the last 2 weeks after the second eclipse. So we have 6 weeks of, it's like a portal, with accelerated change, and it's meant to be for us to grow. Promotes growth. It's a portal for transformation, and so this eclipse, this time around, we have a solar eclipse, April 20th, which is a new moon eclipse, sun conjunct moon, and a solar eclipse is usually new beginnings, starting to spread new seeds, transformation, but force issuing something new in our life. And the May 5th eclipse, 2 weeks later, is a lunar eclipse, which is a full moon eclipse. And so the general entire eclipse period runs between, we already entered it. We had a full moon, regular full moon, last week, April 6th. And that was the beginning of that whole 6-week portal.
Okay. So that kind of starts the cycle.
It starts the cycle, the full moon prior to the new moon, which is an eclipse.
Okay.
And then the closing moon will be the new moon of May 19th, will be the closing of this particular eclipse period, which is the first one. Solar eclipse is in late Aries, 29 degrees of Aries. And the May 5th lunar eclipse will be at 15 Scorpio. And so that whole entire period that we are starting to feel this energy creep in. I said before, it feels like a full moon every day.
Yeah, I remember you saying that. Yeah. And then just real quick, give us the dates for Mercury retrograde that you feel is kind of merged with these eclipses.
Right. So the reason why this year the solar eclipse is April 20th, but the Mercury station retrograde is the next day, April 21st. Yeah. Except Mercury slows down and is kind of practically already stationed on the eclipse day. It's going to be stationed, and similar to the eclipses, we have this kind of orb of energy. And so even though Mercury is right now direct and going retrograde April 21st, it's already entered this shadow period, we call it. Like, it's already in this period, I guess, timeline.
It's like a zone. It's a zone.
That zone, exactly. Yeah. That represents that Mercury retrograde, and that started April 7th, right after that moon that we just had last week, which was the first bookend of the eclipse period. So this year in particular, at this particular Mercury retrograde and this particular set of eclipses, they are kind of exactly running at the same time.
Yeah.
And Mercury goes direct May 14th. And we had said just now that the end, more or less, of the eclipse period was May 19th, mid-May. So, you know, it's interesting that, but again, Mercury will come out of its shadow. Well, it goes station direct May 14th, but I don't think it comes out of its shadow until I've got it written somewhere, but it's probably...
That's okay. Well, so big picture, what kind of astrological weather does this create for us humans down on Earth? What kinds of things can we expect? I know it has to do with your own personal chart too, that everyone's personal chart, but in general, do you see some trends or patterns or things we can look out for kind of in the collective?
Right. So this particular solar eclipse that's coming is going to be at 29 degrees Aries and is going to be squaring Pluto that has freshly just entered Aquarius March 23rd. And Pluto is in transition between Capricorn and Aquarius, and it will go back into Capricorn early next year, and then finally enter Aquarius for 20 years in November of 2024. But so right now, we're getting a glimpse between March 23rd and June 11th. Pluto is in Aquarius, then it's going to go back into Capricorn.
Okay.
And so we're getting a glimpse of what Pluto in Aquarius is going to be about for the next 20 years. But this eclipse is going to be square Pluto, so really truly highlighting the Pluto. And the eclipse being in Aries, Aries is a sign of action. It's a sign of courage. It gives you that confidence to stand for what you believe in, to push forward, to be a leader. The Aries energy is just initiation, right? And strength, courage, action, and on the negative, if there's an excess, if let's say there's been pushback on that energy that wants to go forward, then we could have frustration and anger, and then in the collective, it can be expressed in rebellion or in private also. And so Aries energy is just about wanting to bring forth the new. It's a very authentic energy. So it's about being truly true to your own values, true to who you really are, and having the courage to no longer put up with imposed standards that perhaps don't resonate exactly with who you are. And so that can be expressed during the eclipse period. It can become not just a personal issue, but can become a mundane issue. It can express itself on the world stage, at the world level. And speaking of, right now we're seeing a pushback happening in France against what the people of France are currently perceiving as an authoritarian regime, even though it is a democracy. Many French people.
Can you give us some details on what's going on? Because I know you have family over there, and you're more connected. So some people might not be following. So if you could give us a little.
French people are in the streets, have been in the streets for quite a few weeks. I mean, recent weeks, and it feels that the energy is going to be increasing because the president of France, the current president of France, is truly trying to push an agenda that is clearly not in sync with what the people want. And most people have been protesting peacefully. They've been manifesting in the streets, peacefully, walking in the streets peacefully. Yeah. And this past weekend, there was even a concert by musicians that were put together in front of the, well, we call it the Conseil Constitutionnel, but the closest to that could be the Supreme Court, maybe.
Okay.
So, people are really starting to rise in France against this this particular government, which is seemingly not listening to the people and wanting to just pass laws and mandates that, or decrees that the people are feeling that they're just not being heard, and that the rulers that be at the moment are imposing ways to restructure society that is not in accordance with where the general tendency wants to go.
You had mentioned when we were just texting on the phone that this has resonances of the French Revolution. Did I get that
right?
correct?
So we spoke about that in both previous videos at length. Yeah. Pluto was in Aquarius when the French Revolution occurred, because the Pluto cycle is 248 years. And so, not very often that Pluto is in Aquarius. And the last time around was when the French Revolution happened. Right now, we're having, again, Pluto entering Aquarius, but we're also toward the end of May, beginning of June, from the 20th of May onwards. So ironically, the eclipse period is going to end May 19th, or around May 19th, but then some other energy is going to be quite powerfully following suit, with Pluto being square with the nodes, lunar nodes. And that, the last time this happened was also during the French Revolution in 1789. So
I think it's really interesting how astrologers will go back and look at when was the last time this configuration happened, to get a flavor of what I'm just going to call it the astrological weather was. And of course, things are a lot different than they were 248 years ago. But at the same time, if we have certain planetary energies creating the same configurations, we could expect maybe like echoes or
yes. And it's up to us this time around to really try to take the higher road with maybe choosing evolution as opposed to revolution, in order to perhaps have a breakthrough, but without a total breakdown. However, eclipses do tend to bring about crisis. It's hopefully a cathartic, healing crisis in private lives as well as around the world. But issues that have been shoved under the rug will not be able to be suppressed. And with the eclipses will be triggers to instigate a restlessness within ourselves as well as in the collective, to address issues that are not being addressed.
So that's interesting, because I've definitely been feeling that. I've been feeling like there's things that I want to say kind of publicly that I haven't said for a long time because I haven't quite known how to, or what the venue is, or it's like, well, what's the point? Because people won't get it. It's just going to create more division. And this whole, like in our country here, there's so much division and divisiveness. It's like, I can't stand it. Like, regardless of what your politics are, anyone who's making fun of anyone else or other groups or other political parties or whatever, it's like, you're not helping the situation. You're not helping. If you want, if you want to, like you said, evolve, move forward, you have to get out of this tribalistic mentality of like, you know, your team's way is the only way and everyone else is stupid, and actually maybe listen to the reality, like listen to the real issues, not the memes, not what the news says, not, but like, you know, listen to what the other people are saying, listen to what the politicians you don't like are saying, listen to them, not what the news tells you about them. So you could tell, like, I have a lot of energy around this because I'm just like, oh, I don't think I can take this anymore. I think I'm gonna have to like say something publicly around this, you know, and I have to check myself because it's like I could easily be on that like attack mode, but you know, I'm older now. I'm so tired of that. It's like I'm not gonna do that. I just want to, you know, either accept people the way they are or and move on, or say something, and hopefully that would bring some more enlightenment or peace or
Because ultimately, you know, if we're all to press ourselves, each other, to go to the core of the essence of what we're all wanting, is we're all wanting validation, and we want to be loved and heard and recognized. We want freedom. We want our sovereignty. But in order to get there, we have to take responsibility of this world that we've created, because it's too easy to just look at the other side and said, well, you, except that you is part of our own reality. Therefore, we have, as a collective, created this chaos and this mess that we're in, right? So we might see more chaos and more mess, more explosiveness with the eclipses, and at the personal level, perhaps really work on releasing our fears, our angst, our anxiety, and let go, let God. And if we don't believe in God, we believe in our higher self or our inner spirit. You know, some people don't like the word God, so they'll say source, the universe, the cosmos, our guardian angels, you know, and then depending on our faith and the culture we come from and the countries we come from, and, you know, there are certain traditions. And so at the end, it all says the same thing. And shouldn't even be a division.
Right, exactly, right. So would you advise people, because I know you're like a counseling astrology, would you advise people if they have something that this like been on their heart for a while, like this is a good time to just like try to have those conversations?
Well, they're going to have more courage because the new moon, the solar eclipse in Aries, is going to allow us to be more courageous and bold. But we have to be mindful. We have to keep in mind that we have to be graceful.
Right.
We have to put our listening ears on. We can't just blurt out, you know, whatever it is, in the name of honesty and authenticity, but hurt other people in the process. So I've refrained from saying a lot.
Right.
Because I'm just simply not going to go there, because at this point, you know, there's been a lot of damage done, and it's best to try to continue to lift people up, and certain truths that we think are truths, if we express them, but that perhaps these people that we know, or friends or family or clients, have been perhaps victims of certain whatever's been going on lately, you know, we're not helping them to raise their vibration by perhaps expressing our own truth, you know?
Well,
like different.
I mean, timing is everything, right? So to have a conversation with someone, ideally, you know, they're in a receptive place for it to be productive. But sometimes there's so much energy built up that you just kind of have to say something anyway, because you have to say it just to get it out to move on. But it's tricky because, is that going to create more harm? Is that going to create more damage? Is that going to create
right.
more
You have to decide whether whatever you're going to say is to help you or to help the other.
Right.
Right? Because sometimes people need to just feel like they've got something that they need to express in order to relieve their own angst, but it shouldn't be at the expense of the next one. So ultimately, we're all, what we really wish for all of us is to be connected to our higher self, our soul, and our souls, like to listen to that solar eclipse in Aries. Aries is really, it's a fire sign, and it helps to teach us to be in touch with our own intuition.
Mm-hmm.
And so, people are always doing the best that they know how to with the information they have at that time. If it's too late, they've done certain things, and there isn't much we can do about that except help them raise their vibration. And in order for all of us as a collective to be no longer in fear and anxiety, then we have to strengthen our faith, strengthen our confidence, find meaning in life that can pull us up. And right now, actually, we have, I just told you right before the recording that we have a Sun conjunct Jupiter, April 11th, which is only once a year. And it's a very auspicious day. It's a very optimistic day.
Mm-hmm.
Jupiter enlarges everything it touches. So sometimes let's be careful not to be overly confident with Sun Jupiter conjunction. But Jupiter is about faith and truth and finding meaning and the issue of ethics. And, ethics is a big topic these days in all the different industries. We as a society, we've lost our, we've lost our way. And that's been spoken at length in the previous two videos, because Saturn entered Pisces March 7th and will be there for 2.5-3 years. And then Pluto entered Aquarius March 23rd. And so these conversations are going to be completely relevant, more and more relevant, especially during this eclipse period, the May 5th eclipse, which is a full moon. So that's about bringing the light, bringing the spotlight on some issues that have to do with Scorpio in that case. And Scorpio is excessive control, domination. It's many things. It's intimacy too, and it's soul contracts and
Mm-hmm.
soulmates and sexuality and the banking system, the financial system, other people's money. Second house is my resources and my inner talents and my money. And then 8th house, which is Scorpio house, Pluto, Scorpio, and 8th house carry that vibration of it's deep healing too. It's that deep healing that occurs when we're not afraid to look at our shadow and embrace our flaws and genuinely wanting to grow as a human being. And so there is a lot of intensity with two eclipses, one in Aries, one in Scorpio.
Yeah.
In this period of time. Tomorrow we have the Sun Jupiter in Aries. And so that's again giving more confidence in that sign of Aries of, I'm gonna, fight.
Right.
But Mars right now is in Cancer, and Cancer is about home, family, security, safety. And so at the national level as well as the individual level, we're being faced with looking at, what is bringing us safety and security, and what can we do about taking responsibility for providing that to ourselves. And at the collective level, it's about ownership of needing to do it at the individual level and not so much relying on the authorities to provide the security and the safety, because that's where right now, with Pluto leaving Capricorn and going into Aquarius and then going back into Capricorn, we're in the next year and 2 years truly confronting the issues of having given too much power to authorities. The French people are in the streets, but they allowed that system. They re-voted again. They voted back in the same president that had already shown that he had tendencies of being overly Pluto in Capricorn-ish in nature, which would be exerting excessive control. And our presidency in our nation also, with each president lately, they've increased their own powers with these executive orders that have been bypassing the legislation, the Congress and Senate, but also the power has been consolidating at the top to do with all the big industries, the media, and even the Supreme Court, the legal apparatus. Everything is consolidated at the top, and they've all been, becoming more and more intertwined. And there has been tremendous greed and corruption. There's been tremendous, revolving door between government and big industry. And as a result, we the people have increasingly lost our own, liberties and rights that are being basically stripped away. It doesn't matter which side you're on. It's like from all sides we've been losing freedoms.
Well, you know what that makes me think about? So just this past week, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. filed papers to run, and his main platform is ending corruption through the bureaucracy.
Yes.
And I think it's interesting he's running for president, because I could see him also being, whoever's elected, if they like him, he could also be the attorney general. Like if he wants to go after these different agencies that he calls it regulatory capture.
Yes.
Agencies that are supposed to be regulating different industries have that revolving door, and they actually aren't. They're kind of in bed with the industries. And so that's one of his main platforms is breaking up this regulatory capture, because he's, as an environmental attorney, he talks about how he's been studying this for decades with the EPA and the FDA and things. And so he really understands how all that works, and that you can't have these bureaucrats at the top of these agencies that just get so embedded that regardless of who the president is, they have a tremendous amount of power.
Yeah. And so I'm very grateful that we're going to that his candidacy would issue forth some debate, some hopefully mainstream media might be obligated to cover if he's a presidential contender, running for a candidate, and as well as on the other side. And all these ideas need to be presented to the greater public, because I think a lot of us have been kind of not paying attention and not aware that there is a tremendous amount of industry capture that has been clearly increased and become unbearable at this point. And that's been going on for the last 30, 50 years. It's increasingly getting worse.
Right.
And now we are at the breaking point where the people need to wake up to the reality that our institutions are no longer serving the highest good of the people. And we don't care whether it's Democrat, Republican in France, whatever party you're siding with, who cares? The institutions need reform,
Cleaning.
but at a very deep level, at a very, very deep level.
Yeah.
And until the people demand change, it won't happen, because the people at the top, all they want is to continue to consolidate their power. So we are not being served by anyone who's going to continue this music.
Right. So, okay. So astrologically, is Pluto moving through Capricorn? Was that the 30 years of consolidating power? And now that
Pluto entered Capricorn in 2008 with the break of the financial system.
Yeah.
And then it was rebuilt. But again, a lot of true issues were shoved under the rug.
Yeah.
And the system was not transformed the way that it needs to be transmuted. Like, and so parallel, a lot of people have been building parallel networks of collaboration and help, and but we need a system. We need all these grassroots movements to start gaining in power for the highest good of the whole to be served.
Yeah, and that's the Pluto going into Aquarius, right? The grassroots.
Exactly.
Like Capricorn is the big industry, the big government, all of that consolidation of power at the top. And so we went through this whole period of time where that happened, and now as Pluto moves into Aquarius, it's like handing the baton to the grassroots, to the people, to build.
It's people taking control of their own destiny.
Yeah.
So the Aquarian spirit or era is about all of us together realizing that at the very micro level in our personal lives, in our family, as well as within our communities, and then within our state, and then within our country, and then within globally with the world, each and every one of us, we need to grow up to become the adult now and take responsibility for our lives, and not depend or give our power away to politicians, hoping that they will fix the situation.
Right.
I mean, they could help fix the situation, but we all have to be behind in this evolution of which becomes with raising our rising, moving up, upgrading our resonance, our frequency. And with that, we need to do that by stepping out of fear. So as soon as we notice that, higher powers, whomever they might be, and the media will promote an event or put the spotlight on only the negatives of an event, to create further fear in order to divide and conquer.
Right.
So for example, in France, hundreds of thousands of people have been protesting peacefully, and the media is exclusively focused on, the few clashes that happen here and there. And in order to divide the French people against each other, the ones who would see the violence would then say, well, we're against this movement because look at this. Now, we're going to suffer negative consequences. And it's going to divide the people, whereas ultimately everybody is really wanting the same thing, but they're not going to the root core. The people are not seeing the root core of the issues. They're just only fighting on the surface because this event or that event brought their attention, or the media put the spotlight on it. So then our heads are going this way, then our heads are going that way. But at the root cause, is a malaise in our respective societies. And the way out is, you know, using the Saturn in Pisces and the Neptune in Pisces, and the Sun Jupiterian energy, to bring about more compassion, more understanding, more communication, more collaboration, and to not allow ourselves to be brought down, disempowered by negative news.
Right. You know, it's so interesting because it seemed like with the whole pandemic and everyone being told, go home, stay 6 feet away from people, you know, hide in your house for 3 years or whatever. It, you know what, this has always been kind of a difficult thing, like getting people to talk to each other and to communicate. And it seems like the whole stay home, don't talk to anyone, the community building events, whether it's, you know, like the Rotary Club or a sewing circle or the PTA at school or sports teams or whatever, that would bring people from differing political parties together, just because you're next door neighbors, or there's a, you know, there's, yeah, your kid's baseball team, you're with parents who are, you know, have differing views, but you kind of know that they're good people and you would trust them to babysit your kid, like that kind of thing. The thing I hate so much about this division is like those things that kind of kept us tied together, even though maybe people had differences of opinion. So many of those activities just came to a screeching halt, and then people just went home and they spent years just listening to the news and hearing the news tell them what other people think and if they're good or bad, instead of just talking to
it's not the
your
truth.
neighbor. No, it's a big old lie. Yeah. That's what I'm so frustrated about with all of this.
And so these eclipses are really going to usher, you know, journalists. I noticed last week that journalists in France who were part of this movement right now in the streets and being unhappy with this law that the French president is trying to pass or impose, has to do with raising the retirement age. But it's really not this law per se that's the reason why the people are going to create a revolution. There is so much angst and unwellness, you know, disempowerment, that the people have been feeling for years, not just this last few weeks. And so this is just simply the straw that broke the camel's back, and perhaps the response from the executive using the police to literally almost create a police state and crack down on people who are manifesting peacefully, is creating yet more angst and fear and division.
Right.
But what I wanted to say about these journalists is, all of a sudden, perhaps before, during the pandemic, they had not been made aware, or they didn't want to speak up. We don't know, that, you know, there was some censorship going on, that a lot of the media have been captured by the government or big industry and lobbies. And people were only being told one side of the story, and that was the exclusive narrative that was being fed down the pipeline. But now these journalists that themselves were in the street, they noticed how the peaceful walks of hundreds of thousands of people in all of the streets of France, not just Paris, you know, where it's mostly violent in Paris, where there's, you know, infiltration, unfortunately, of the good spirited, well-meaning people, you know, by a few bad apples that create chaos and violence, and also an excessive crackdown by the authorities. But in all of the villages and the smaller cities in France, there have been people, students protesting, high schoolers protesting, and these are kids, and they're being like, there's violence against them by the police, which is completely out of proportion. But anyway, those journalists have been noticing that the peaceful and the well-meaning spirit has not been represented in the news whatsoever, and that it's only been, you know, one-sided. And so they themselves are starting to realize that, my goodness, the stories are being censored. And so that to me was very optimistic. I felt like, wow, finally, you know, some people in the media themselves are starting to realize that, you know, unconsciously, or they have not been noticing, but, you know, they were led to always tell the one side of the story, and, you know, debate wasn't allowed. And now that they themselves are feeling the victims, they're finally realizing, oh my gosh, you know, our truth, our story, our life is not being relayed on the news.
Right. So is that Saturn in Pisces? Doesn't Pisces have to do with the media, and Pisces, Neptune, the media?
Well, the media is communication,
Imagery.
is Mercury, it's Uranus as well.
Yeah.
Television is Uranus. Pisces is mostly film and movies, and
Or
but yeah,
trickery. I mean, the thing is,
right.
if it's not the truth, if you're being fed imagery that isn't actually true, so it is more like a movie than the actual news. Like, we assume the news is just reporting the truth, but if it's actually creating a narrative to convince people.
That's Pisces, Neptune, 12th house, absolutely. And so with Saturn entering Pisces, there might, you know, the reality check of Saturn, it might come to the Pisces illusion, or stories created, and then all of a sudden people will increasingly wake up to, whoa, reality was not at all what we were being told.
Right.
And so that was very hopeful, and I felt optimist, you know, when I saw that these French journalists were on Twitter. They were like saying, hey, you know, we're noticing there's all this censorship going on. And I'm like, well, where have you been for the last 3 years?
Right, exactly. So we should kind of wrap this up. Do you have my cat, Sebastian?
Oh, so sweet.
Do you want to say anything else about, we didn't talk much about the Mercury retrograde. Anything else you want to say about that?
So actually, I think that it's going to be in my opinion, a humble opinion. I think Mercury retrograde exactly at the same period of the eclipse is a blessing for me, because I think it's going to be restraining the energy of perhaps excess. Right. So when we were saying let's hope for evolution as opposed to revolution, that Mercury retrograde at the same time as the eclipses want to create the revolution, and the Mercury retrograde is going to put some rain, is going to rein in that excessive outpouring of energy that wants to manifest. Right. A little bit, but not too much. It's not going to be able to hold that energy too much, because when it stations retrograde April 21st, but it's already there retrograde the day before, on the day of the eclipse, and the eclipse is not on one day, but it's just got an aura, like we said, 6 weeks. It's actually stationing retrograde really close to Uranus. And so Uranus is the, you know, is the archetype of revolution and freedom and breaking free, and cutting. And it's going to be again conjunct Uranus June 4th. So it's going to be conjunct Uranus when it turns station retrograde on May 14th, May 15th, and is going to be again conjunct Uranus exactly this time, June 4th. So there is the energy of rebellion and needing to break free, and Uranus operates in very sudden ways. So it could be a happy surprise, or it could be a just, you know, sudden break, right? Yeah. I mean, it is the planet that rules revolution. And so Uranus, Aquarius, 11th house, and Pluto is in Aquarius right now, highlighting that Uranus, we've got the Mercury retrograde, which when it stations retrograde and when it stations direct, create triggers. So we have the eclipses that are triggers. We have, you know, around April 20th, we have the eclipse that's a trigger. We have the station retrograde of Mercury that's a trigger. We've got it conjunct Uranus, that's another trigger. The eclipse being in Aries, that's, you know, Aries is not calm, you know.
Right.
I mean, it's Mars, and Mars is a warrior, you know,
Right.
competitor. And so it's a lot of energy. And we really have to be mindful to just take a big breath, and it's gonna give us the courage to act, to take risks, perhaps, to stand our own ground, and or to start new projects, or to embark on a new journey, or to just, you know, put our energy into this new path, right? But it's a lot of triggers.
Right. So
During
stay grounded. Stay grounded during the whole thing. I went to
being
a
grounded
qigong.
is key. Being grounded is key, and we all suffer from lack of groundedness.
Yeah.
You know? And it's very important to just root ourselves, visualize those roots going deep into Mother Earth, all the way into the core, and just let us get fed by her nurturing capabilities and abilities. You know, Mars in Cancer is also nutrition, nourishment. So it's about finding our roots and connecting to Mother Earth, finding where we feel safe and secure, making it happen, so that we feel grounded and stable in order to handle the chaos all around us.
Yeah.
That the eclipses is liberation also. It's not just negative. It's just basically eventful, right?
Right.
The eclipse periods are eventful, and the last two eclipses were October 25th and November 8th of 2022. And the next eclipses in 6 months will be in October 14th and October 28th. And again, 2 weeks before the first eclipse, 2 weeks after the second eclipse, 6-week period of increased energy. But it's also an opportunity for us to connect with God, with our guardian angels, with our higher self, with the spirit. And it's the veil between the visible, the material, and the immaterial, and the cosmos is thinner, because the eclipse period is like, it's like a portal between the seen and the unseen. So we have to trust our intuition, our gut feeling, and just, you know, stand our ground and have patience, which the new moon, I mean, the eclipse in Aries, that's not patient, right? Aries is wanting it now, you know, here and now, and I want it the way I want it, and I want it now. You know, it's like the temper tantrum of the kid in the supermarket that wants whatever that, you know, he wants, she wants, and the parent is saying, no, not now. Right. So there is that anticipation, this energy of, I want it now. You know, I know it could happen in 3 weeks from now, or a month from now, or it's okay if it happens in 2 months from now. But that energy is, you're feeling the energy, and that's just kind of pushing you to just wanting it, like, you know, proof of it now. Right. And so the eclipse is also telling us, the one in Scorpio is about release. It's about letting go of all the old, whatever is no longer serving us privately and as a society. You know, Scorpio, that full moon lunar eclipse May 5th is going to be really letting go, working on releasing our deepest fears, and trusting the process. Is just the process. And Mercury retrograde that you mentioned is going to help us to go within, because when Mercury is retrograde, it's asking us to go back and look at things. You know, we put the reevaluate, reassess, and so on. You know, go back, reconnect. So yes, it's it's an intense period that we just entered midweek last week, and we're going to feel this energy increasing all the way until the first eclipse, which will be April 20th. And then there's going to be a Pluto station in the sky May 1st at the crux, exactly in between the two eclipses. So this period between April 20th and May 5th, we must focus on breath. We must focus on really, really taking time for ourselves. Mercury is retrograde at that point, right? And just do not be afraid to go within and do introspective and rework everything, redo everything, and revise, you know?
Yeah.
For then the full moon eclipse, May 5th, is going to bring to light. Full moon again is the spotlight on issues that were buried under the carpet prior to that full moon, but issues from 6 months ago too, because eclipses go in 6 months. And so if we haven't dealt with an issue and, you know, kind of pretended it wasn't there 6 months before, it comes back up to be addressed at this eclipse period. And if we don't do the work this eclipse period, it's going to show up again next eclipse period. Right. We got to look at within. We've got to face ourselves and release our fears, release our anxiety, and release our sense of feeling lost, and ground ourselves to be, we are all children of Mother Earth. And as humans, you know, get connected to your heart and connected to each other. And again, compassion, acceptance of what is too, right? In order to raise our vibration and navigate to the best of our ability this turbulent eclipse time.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
You know,
well,
yeah.
that sounds like a good note to end this on. So I want to thank you so much for your time and your expertise. And if people are feeling a need for more grounding, I actually teach grounding a lot, and I have a free grounding video you can check out on my website, and I have a grounding YouTube video too that might be helpful to people. And my website is just appliedintuition.org. And Corinne, if people want to get in contact with you, you can tell us, but I'll put the info
I just
in
wanted
the show
to
notes.
say to find out like how you can best navigate this eclipse period. Do not hesitate to contact me to see where these eclipses fall in your natal chart, because each and every one of us is unique and individual, and depending on where the eclipse is, what it lights up, does it trigger some planets, you know, does it put some spotlight in the particular domain of life in the chart, but the different planets and then the angles, depending on what's being triggered, that's where we've got to do the work. That's where the issues are, you know, coming to be addressed.
Right.
And the more consciousness we have, oh gosh, this is what I've got to work on, then the more we can flow through this eclipse period with most peace and ease, right? So yeah, my website is coreawakening.com, COR awakening, all in one word, .com. And you can reach me through coreawakening.com. You can reach me through my website to ask for a reading if you're interested, to find out how these specific eclipses are affecting you, your life, your environment, your family, your loved ones through your natal chart.
Right. And I'll put that info in the show notes too. So, okay, well, thank you very much. So everyone, buckle your seatbelt, stay grounded, be courageous, and we'll do this again soon. Okay?
Yeah. Let's do it like as soon as maybe on the other side of the eclipse period, or even in the midst of it if it's too crazy.
Okay. Well, have a great day. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. If you like this, share this video with other people who you think might be interested, and subscribe to the channel. So take care, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.